Good morning. Welcome to a live stream. My name is John Skippy Limcool. Welcome. Start the day with calming, meditative moments. Birds. Wind chimes. I want to add something to this. One thing that's new in Unify 1.1, it says up here 1.0.31, but that's our working version. It's not public yet. This is coming out soon. One thing that's very fun is you can just simply right-click on any patch that you want to add into your current patch and say load this. And say we want to add something else. We want to add some rhythm. We could add, let's add a tongue drum to this. Let's say like go this one, add this. We'll just add it as a layer so it adds it into the existing. So I'm building from all my patches. And it lets me just keep interacting and doing whatever I want. Let's say I want to add a groove to all this. So let's say we add this into a new Unify layer. Takes it a second. And now we have somehow it's got a little bit too much reverb on it, so we can go over here. Let's see if there's something down here at the bottom that's doing reverb. Where are you? Oh. There. So there's all sorts of cool abilities we now have with Unify for playing and interacting with the library in some really cool ways. You hear all these grooves? Where'd those come from, right? The birds are still playing in the background. Anyway, welcome. I have a lot to show you. We're just about to release Unify 1.1 to our beta testing team. They're going to help us test. There's a handful. You might see it crash today. We've been really stable. And just giving you a heads up, because we have changed so much, at this point, it's not repeatable stuff. It's just, it works, it's great, it's great. Oh, it crashed. So this is the point where we start working with our beta team. They work with it to find out if they can find exactly what's doing something so we can fix the last handful of remaining little niggles here and there that in some of the new features that we have. Because some of the features we have are, they're doing some really, really cool things. Some of them are a little bit heavy on the whatever it is. I'm not a software guy. I have to tell you, and he's in the room with us. We all must give a mad shout out to Shane first, because he has been working very hard to get Unified to this point. And I helped develop the ideas. I helped talk about the flow and, oh, that's not working quite right. I have the experience of working with all these synthesizers and plugins and how things work and how I like it to work. But it's Shane that actually does the writing of the code. So mad shout outs. Has the crashing with iLock plugins been fixed? Yes, we've a lot better with all of our iLock plugins. That's been fixed since 1.0.19. If not, email me at unifysupport@pluginguru.com if there's a certain plugin that's not working. We're definitely working hard to get through all that kind of stuff. I love the little tiny environmental background thing going on. So let me just run down the list of what is coming in Unify 1.1. Probably one of the more significant things that you're adding is 2 new MIDI effects. These open up some really, really cool new doors. Let's do this. I'm going to go just to one of the drum kits right up here. I'm in Cloud City. Where's my drum kits? Right here. So if I go hip skip, this is one of the... We now have 2 different... I call them hip hop kits because they're more what you're... everything... Right? And it keeps going. Chaos is a cat from back east that has worked with a whole bunch of artists. He's a producer. He's my first official artist endorsee, and he made a drum kit of some of his sounds that are on Jaden Smith's albums, some of the things he's done with the Roots, other bands that are... So we have all these cool drum sounds. They can be used in all sorts of genres. So if we go to BPM split, these are used anywhere from more like legit... Well, let me slow down because hip hop like this needs to be played at a slower tempo so you can appreciate the... You'll also notice we have graphics. This is changing now. Like I said, we are solidly in beta. This is why you guys can all be really super thankful with 1.0.19 and how stable it is, and it doesn't crash hardly ever. So much has changed under the hood of Unify that stuff like this will happen. So we've had many live streams where I've been like doing crazy stuff and it just flies along fine. But we're in the land now where it might do that. And it's cool. It's okay because that's part of the process. It has to crash before it gets to you guys so we can fix it, right? And this time it won't crash. So let me see if changing tempo caused it to crash, because that's what I did last time. Nope. Okay. Yay. So if I'm at this is one type of, this library, Cloud City, that's going to come with Unify 1.1 as it's a separate purchase, but they're coming out at the same time. It goes all over the place from there to, let's say we call it a little bit faster tempo and... Oh, I want to do chill on the cart. This one here. This is a fun one. So this is one using MIDI files. So this bass. Let's see, where's he at? Bass. He's being played. Because there's 2 parts that are playing this bass sound, I'm using a MIDI effect up here like they've normally been, right? So this is signed and this is signed. Both these bass patches. If I hold down a note, here, I'll go to the keyboard so you can see. I'm just holding down a note. Slow down just a little bit. things like this. We have other ones I've done that are like, this is a fun one. There we go. Sorry about that. Like I said, we are in beta land, which means this kind of stuff can and will happen. They're unpredictable. We don't know when they're going to happen, and then they happen. So the lesson from today's live stream is cool features are coming, but we got to suss out and fix these things so it doesn't do this type of stuff for you when you're working with Unify. Because Unify 1.0.19, it's pretty rock solid. You can use it for hours and hours without problems. Oh my gosh. So those types of things will happen. Let me give you the rundown, and I apologize. We normally don't have this situation, but we're about to release something new, and we're just entering the beta phase with it. And it's worked pretty reliably for me, but I've been doing voicing standalone. I had a feeling today is just going to be this way. Oh, 0.12. Sorry. Yeah. Maybe you should make a little oops sign to hold up. That would be funny. Tonda. So, the cool features. Let's go down the feature list. I won't try to play these things that are going to... but we still might crash. We're used to being in a situation where we don't, but, you know, and I'm not a big fan of showing when we crash, but it's part of life with software. And I'm not afraid to show it to you because when we release it to you, we release it when it's far more solid than it is right now. But this is the version we're going to get to the beta testers, because at this point, a lot of these are just random, no reason it works, and then it doesn't. And so we're going to try to suss out and figure out what it is that's doing this. But one of the cool features that's inside of Unify 1.1 is right here. We have now added a MIDI effect to the layer. And we have two new MIDI effects to work with. We have MIDI Box, which is a MIDI file player. And we can keep adding MIDI effects to this if we want. We also have Jitterbox, which does some really, really cool things to timing and to pitch. So these do some... It's really great how they work together. For example, let's bring this all the way to 0. If we go to the libraries, check this out. Inside of the Cloud City library, we now have a MIDI files folder. And in here, we can have all sorts of MIDI files. And so if this is the skip hip kit, as I call it. So if we go to drum kits for, where are they? Skip hip drum grooves. I have all sorts of single grooves here. So we could say everyday groove. Now it's playing a MIDI file. And it's playing it automatically because my sequencer is playing, and so it just locks up and it follows along. Right? And it's, I believe this is a 4 measure long. If I wanted to, I could have it just play measure 4. And only for one measure, so it's going to be repeating measure 4. So you have the ability to choose, even from a long MIDI file that's, 128 measures long, you could go down and say start at measure 64 and only play for however many measures you want to play. We can do loop or we can do one shot. One shot means it plays through and then it doesn't repeat again. So we can do like harp, arpeggios and stuff like that, which is really cool. We can play double time or half time. Right? If I have my click on. Okay. Now it starts to get interesting. Down here are the parameters that let you interact with MIDI files in cool ways. Turning on gate makes it so that MIDI box doesn't play until I play a note on the keyboard. And right now, because of the timing mode that it's set to, it's it should be well, it's following the sequencer. So let me stop the sequencer so that I can start it by playing a note on the keyboard. And we were at this point a little over a month ago, probably. And I went to Shane and I said, you know, it's cool. You can play any key to start the groove, but it needs to be more interactive because we want to be able to do things that are interactive. And so because we work, our Guru sampler is our own sampler. We talked about it, and what I wanted him to figure out, for Shane to figure out, was I wanted, so as I played up the keyboard, that it'd be like that while playing a groove, right? So what we did is we have a button right here that's exclusive only to, at this point, Unify and to Guru Sampler in specific, because by doing this, we send a secret MIDI CC that notes play. Usually when you call up MIDI effects, they block all notes and all data from going through. This allows it so that now when I play a note, a value of 64 on MIDI CC 127 equals no value of transpose change, and anything playing up will increase this by semitones per note, and if I play lower, it will decrease it by semitones per note. So now when I have that turned on, I can play keys on the keyboard and it transposes. So it's kind of like playing a sample where it changes in pitch. But if you're doing this to a drum loop, you know this would be half the speed of the normal sample normally, right? But not here because the MIDI file is still playing the samples in time. We also allow pitch bend and mod wheel to go through, so you could have radical values here, and you could have things happening here. And let's say we have LFO pitch, and we have a little bit faster speed, so that so we have us at the controls and the MIDI CC, the for pitch bend and for mod wheel. That's not a pitch bend, it's not a MIDI CC, but those two go through for all plugins. So whatever plugin is in this slot, it can receive pitch bend and modulation information while a MIDI file is playing. If you don't have these turned on, you can't do that, but with that turned on, it can. So we have that type of transpose by changing notes. Super cool. But we also have the other type where if we go over here and let's say instead of drum grooves, let's go to maybe a chord part. So if I call up a chord part and instead of drums, let's go to Guru Sampler and let's say we just call up some sort of a, let's say maybe one of the tongue drum pads, the bells, and go like that, right? Normally when you play on the keyboard, the MIDI file, it doesn't transpose. We have where you can transpose. So that allows you to transpose. We can transpose it if we want to go up an additional octave from what the MIDI file is playing. We can just go like that. And we have velocity curves because this velocity curve before the MIDI effects doesn't correlate to the notes, but I can make it less expressive or more expressive actually, but it brings it a little softer. Or I could take away the velocity. So it's playing the MIDI file. I can also limit the range. This is useful mainly for drums, But it's also useful here if I wanted to like limit this to just being a certain range that it play. Like it's not playing the top notes. If I play down here, right? So by doing this, one of the other features that's cool in Unify is now I could go down here to the pads or to a texture. Let's say I want a little cloudy afternoon. I can say load this as a new Unify just by right clicking, or even control clicking will do it. So now I add. So I have a MIDI file that's transposing. And then it can get even cooler than this. If you take this and now run it into an arpeggiator, like Blue Arp, and we now have, is this 1.2.3? Oh, this is not the newest. Oh, let me see. Well, I can't do it right now, but there's a new version of Blue Arp that will be coming with Unify that now has random, which is super, super cool. Let's say we set this to like 8th notes, and let's go and have it just play. Let's maybe have it do some sort of a. I won't be able to show what I wanted to show, but. Oh, you know, I got that key range thing. So it's transposing notes as we go. Let me get back to this drum patch because I want to show you the next step, which is using Jitterbox. So let's revert this and turn on this MIDI file, right? And then I'm going to duplicate this because I want to play with a duplicate version of this, and I'm going to turn off pitch transpose, which is actually off of this. And I'm going to transpose this one up in pitch. And you can't really hear it. So let's go over here to Jitterbox and let's get some random timing going on that octave up version. So you can get sloppy groove. You can actually just move this if you want to have be like a late double hit. Just a little late, but also randomizing with this range gives it a really cool vibe, right? Then on top of this, besides milliseconds, we have timing values. We could say 8th notes. And let's put a little reverb on this so you really hear it. We've got 4 new reverbs. There's now 10 reverbs inside of Unify. And I'm gonna save really quick before I do this just to make sure. We might crash at any time. So let's go to here and check this out. Let's call it the room reverb. So let's go Dragonfly room. And let's go to the decay. Oh, I put it on the wrong one. Option click is new, so I can say, actually let's do this. Let's say I go, this is another thing we can do. We can say copy the plugin state, delete it. Let's add that room reverb here on the second layer and go right here, and I can just change it. But you can also go here and say now under the ops button, you can now say paste the plugin state. It will paste the parameters. There. You have different presets for the reverb. There's a room, there's a hall, there's a plate, and there's early reflections. I'll show them all to you here in a minute. So that's doing new reverb, which is cool. Now check this out. This is what's fun. Even though it's synced to clock with Jitterbox, you can still put in random timing. And because it's being delayed, it can now have pushing earlier. Pushing earlier. So I could actually go like this and just push the whole thing earlier. Until it's 0, right? But we can also go the other direction and we can randomize the whole range. all over the place. And then this is where it gets really interesting, because now we can choose to limit this range so that we'll only pick, as you can see, we've got timing values of 75%, 75%. We could say 100%, 100%, but only choose one of these values is all it can use now. And it's actually not even that. It's only 75, 50, or 25%. So it's still random, but now it's in absolute timing values. We could simplify it by hitting 50. So now it's only in the later part, or you could say 0 and it's only up to 50% earlier. Okay? So you can do random timing that's actually timing value based. And you can do simple and triplet, which is really cool. So you get... Right? So it's doing these really cool random timings. Hopefully the audio's working. I gotta check to make sure. Then it gets even more interesting. Let's go back just to simple times. Turning on pitch jitter does, it's crazy. Let's turn this off, so it's just gonna take automatically each note that comes in 100% of the time. I'm gonna give it just the range of this drum kit from here to C1 up to C6, let's say. And by doing this, it will now make sure it plays a drum sample, not areas where there's no drum samples. And it's going to randomly change pitch every note. Let's set to just eighth notes. Super, super cool. All of a sudden you have really cool groove stuff happening. A little bit of random timing, let's say. Right? So you can have these drum grooves that come alive with really cool harmonic stuff happening, and put cool effects on it. Put a delay on top of it. So the possibilities for interesting groove stuff is just off the hook. Because remember, this doesn't have to be Guru Sampler. This can be any drum synthesizer, any sampler with all your sample libraries can be controlled with these parameters. Right? So these possibilities just boom. I wanted 1.1 to have cool things that are really powerful, that you can still use on anything. It's not just exclusive to something that we've made. We've done the behind the hooks things with Guru Sampler and with MIDI box, so that I could now go over here and I could turn this on and I can play different notes at different pitches. So crazy what this does. And then it gets more interesting than this, because one thing that's inside of the Cloud City library is all these percussion. I sampled all sorts of percussion. You can hear, here, I'll do this real quick. This is one of the BPM. I did a series of grooves. This is calling up 13 different percussion sample maps. Each one has a MIDI file. Oh, we had an oops. Like I said, this is beta, so that kind of stuff will happen. So we have all these percussion maps. Oh, I got my latency back. 1 second. And we have the map, the Guru sampler is allowing you to transpose it. Mod wheel, I've got some really cool controls happening. Mod wheel. So you can control exactly how much decay you want it to be. And this is what's really fun. One of the things we did in Unify 1.1, let's say we solo the bin dir. Okay? This drum decay will be a cool chance to show you a couple of things. The macro parameter links. Can you see this very well in the display? Let's make sure that, let me make this bigger. So we'll go like this. Move this, zoom this bigger. So it takes up all the screen. Right? Notice that it now says the name of each track as you go down the list. Because before this, when you have something like 13 different layers assigned, you'd be looking at this number and trying to match it to this number. This is the bin dir, which is number 3, so you'd have to look and find the number instrument 3. Well, now you don't have to because it says bin dir right there. So you know, if I wanted to also hear, like, say, the Woody Shaker. So let's go over here to Woody Shaker. He's right here. Let's turn him on as well. Right? So, when the mod wheel goes up, you see there's now a slider here that correlates to that slider, so that while you're in this editing screen, you can actually move this. Instead of having to close this and go down here to find the knob, you have it on the actual mod page to do this. On top of this, what's really cool, you could be here at this value, and I'm going to go to the decay for the bin dir, and I click right here, and I actually hear the results of the decay value. Do I want it that short? So I could find right where it's really nice and musical. And if I go down to the Woody Shaker, which is, where is he in the list? Right here. I can click here. And I hear the result by just clicking and dragging. So I'm not sure if anybody else has done stuff where you have this real-time control, hearing what it's going to sound like. And it could also be doing these things like, say that it's about 1.2. So I could go double click here and go 0.12, and it will change to that value. So I have an area to double click and put in absolute values. I could even have multiple breakpoints, and these also. So now as it travels, you could do stuff like this so easy. So now the mod wheel does that. So this kind of real-time feedback was really a cool new thing, and it works on everything. If you're in Serum, if you go to decay, you can control the decay of each layer of whatever synthesizer. It will send the controls in real time to that synth. This is not just an exclusive to things in Unify. This works with everything. So it's really powerful because you can have so many parameters. They can each have their own curvatures. You could have curves for how they work over time and be able to hear it in real time. It's wonderful. So, on top of this, each of these sample maps is unto itself unique. So if I go to the Buffalo drum, I can open up Guru Sampler, and if I try to transpose here, sounds great, but when I play a note again, it's going to reset it because I have transpose by pitch turned on. Well, one of the cool parameters that we have inside of MIDI box is right here. This is the axis point. And so if I want to set the pitch lower, I just have to move this up in pitch. So now G above. Oh, am I on the wrong? Oh, I'm on the wrong one. Sorry. I need to be. I'm looking at the MIDI file for the wrong part. Buffalo drum. So right here, if I say G, now that's regular. So no. Now C plays lower. So I can change. I could go like this. Talk about really fun sound design stuff. Go like this. Add a little noise box. Let's say even just power curve's really nice. Maybe I want to go custom so I can. Then turn on the low pass filter. So you can sound design each element in a groove to do really cool things. I did some things where I took these are MIDI. So in testing out the MIDI files and so forth, I did some things where I call them sequences here, where BPM sequence. These are song ideas. I think maybe 4 is one of my favorites. They're all cool. So it's a whole song, and I'm just playing a single note. And it's playing, this is sequence part 1, bass. Sequence 2. And then a chord part. And I'll just solo chord part by just right click with this on the solo button. Up. And below this are the drums, and I did them as separate tracks. So you have a kick, clap, a hi-hat part, toms, a cool crash with processing on it, and then there's a couple sounds for the so you can jam, you have some. So you have these things to jam to. There's all sorts, there's 5 of them I've done so far. Slowing down tempo. Right? So I took that drum groove and I pulled it out as a separate right here, so that right? And then what's fun is to take this and like replace the parts and turn them into remix. So being able to take the data that was used one way and find other ways to use it is a real. Oh, we had an oops. I wish we should have a drinking game for each crash. That would be fun. I have my cherry Pepsi or whatever this is. Cheers, mates. So we've got, so we have the MIDI effects of Jitterbox and MIDI box are the MIDI effects, and the way we're using them are being pushed. There will be some patches in the update for Unify itself that will have some MIDI files playing the drum kits, some keyboard things, stuff like that. But all this crazy stuff is going into the Cloud City library, which will be a separate purchase. But all these features that I'm showing you ability-wise, as far as what MIDI box and all these things are doing, these are all, my nose really itches. What the heck? These will all be included with the update. That these features will be there. It's not like they're separate. They will come with Unify 1.1. Oh, zoom out. Oh, thanks. Oh, let's see here. Thank you, Shane. We'll go like that. Make this like, what the heck? We'll just boom, shrink me a little bit. Ah! Okay, how's that? So, other things that we've added to Unify are, as I mentioned, were the reverbs. So let's go over here to the piano. Let's just go init and just go to the layer presets to go sampler, piano. So that's to optimize the sound. We go down to the master presets, to the master optimizer. And then let's go here and let's call up a reverb. So here's the reverbs that we had. They're very nice. Right? The new ones have more of like a defined feel of a space to them. If you call up room reverb, let's call up a preset like, let's say just a medium clear room. They call it late level. Okay, there's also the, and there's, as you can see, lots of parameters, including spin, and wander, which does some, there's also stereo width you can widen. So just a little of those is nice. There's EQ controls. Okay. If we go from the room to the hall, let's go over here. As you can see the programs in the change program list. To the hall. Let's choose one of the halls like... Sounds like a nice hall, doesn't it? Isn't that great? The plate is equally beautiful. All of them have a really nice space to themselves. Let's go to here to decay. And it's got that nice kind of frozen vibe of a plate. Let's remove the dampening. Okay, so those are there. There's also, if I go to one of the drum kits, and let's say we go to Super Pop, and let's call it the gate. This is a really cool reverb for drums. Clean up the low end. So bring this down to be subtle and darker. or put it on a snare, on just the snare part. It's kind of like the dimension kind of effect that's inside of Serum, I find. It's really nice. And a lot of the other reverbs in the Dragonfly series, they actually have this early reflection built in a simpler form, but you can, if you go to the level, and then I believe size. So you can have just a little bit thicker to the reverb. Really nice. So those 4 reverbs are free in 1.1. They are included. In a handful of months, we plan to release these as our first audio effects to the world as free plugins. So right now, for the first probably 3 months, they are inside Unify only, but we will make them available to the world as free reverbs, probably in 3-4 months, somewhere around there. We'll see how it works. We got a couple other things we're working on to kind of coincide with that, maybe. But that's the plan, is to share them. They actually were created by a gentleman by the name of, I never can remember his name, by Michael Willis. Shout out to Michael Willis. Shane found these on GitHub. They were kind of in an older state. They hadn't been put to a modern framing like Juice. So Shane converted these to the Juice architecture. He's been working to make them audio units and VST and all that kind of stuff. We'll be distributing them on the Plugin Guru website, which will be cool. And Michael Willis has given us permission to do this with these reverbs that he developed. So major shout out to Michael Willis for doing that and letting us work with him to do this. It's fun to find, really, really nice. There's other people that have been involved with this too. This is one of those things where a couple other people have worked on these reverbs over time, and it's kind of fun to take this, push it forward. We share our code back to the GitHub forums and all that kind of stuff. So the GPL community benefits as well from this work that we're doing. So it's kind of a give back and make everything better collective kind of a concept that we're doing here. They're 64-bit reverbs. So it's not 32-bit, the 64-bit. So you'll need to have a modern thing to get them to work. Ah. Hi, Melanie. My sweetheart is here. In fact, actually, the very first patch inside of the Cloud City library right now is credit to my girlfriend, because she has this really cool little prayer bell that I sampled. That's inside here. So this little prayer bell. If one of the cool things that we did in 1.1 is that when you go to the percussion, and actually it's under bells. So if you go bell, the prayer bell, watch the graphics. They will change to show you what the prayer bell looks like. So this is Melanie's little prayer bell that I sampled. We now have, and this is something you guys can benefit from too, inside of the way it works is this. If you have in the libraries folder, when you're making your own library, putting your own patches together, like Cloud City, if you have a folder and you name it media, and inside of media, you have images and you make them the same name as the patch in the library. So this is Shaker Hollow Seeds. So if I go down here to the percussion for Shaker Hollow Seed, boom, it pops up this image of a hollow seed shaker, or the eggshell shaker, eggshell, or my rain stick. I have studio lights and a nice camera and lenses, and so I took pictures of all the drums that are in the library. When we get to the pads and stuff like that, actually the textures, I've really spent a lot of time getting these to have kind of cool images. There's a cat named Celestial Dreamer that's contributed some patches and samples to this library. He sent me some really cool things. This is additive synth going through arpeggiators. Really cool things. So there's that. This is a sample. And so this is the image that I've created for that. A lot of these are pictures from photos I've done from landscape trips I've taken. The other cool feature inside of Unify is now I can go to this blue tongue drum and I can just right click and say add this as layers. And I just added another patch to this. Let's turn down the texture a little bit. And let's turn off the distortion of the omega delay so it's clean. Right? So fun stuff with that is now possible. All the different tongue drums, I have photos for them. So, and Matt Chowski, who did the artwork for, where would that be? That'd probably be like this. He's actually making 3D images for me to use in various patches of this city that he built. He actually built this in 3D and is now making, let's see if I find, I don't get to find it very easy, but I have a, let's see, Cloud City. City is no, I don't have it easy to find. But it's a really cool 3D city. So we'll have those to go throughout some of the photos as well. The meditation bell that I play, it's my own meditation bell. And I played it both straight and looped with rubbing. So we have all the BPM stuff, 2 different cool drum kits, whole lots of really cool pads. There's these vocal chops, and we have now 23 different patches of both mono I should have, I don't think, oh I do, no I don't. If I go over here, instead of being just one at a time, I could say all the samples and let's see, transpose off. So I have, there's something like, from 82 to 36, so there's like 40 at least of these vocal chops that I have taken. There will be a chord version, as well as a mono, as well as a more 5-layer. If you're familiar, there's a sample library that's been used to death called Evoxa. So this is kind of, it's vocal chops, but these are higher quality. There's So there's a ton of vocal chops, which are really cool to use inside of grooves. If we go to, like, let me see, which one of these has, I think, maybe Hazy Love. Let me find the one that has this. There it is. So this is one where, let's say we have the slower tempo. This is one of the really cool, I love this one. So there's high C is rain. And it's actually a thunderstorm from Costa Rica. And you have filtering on it. And then the note right below it starts a little motif groove. Right? It's in D minor. Then down on the left hand. I'm just playing. Right? And then here's a vocal drop. So you could do these really cool productions. Go right to the knobs, drums alive, brings up filters. So you can control the sound. So it's really fun how all this kind of stuff is this coming week. There's a whole bunch of these I want to make. Another cool example of this type of stuff with the MIDI files. This is really fun. I haven't converted this one yet. This is the old school way where there was 6 different MIDI boxes playing 6 different parts. Right? And then above this I have just play along, jam to them. And then you have controls. And again, with the real-time controls now inside of Unify, we can go to the filter. And I wanted it so that the cue as it came down doesn't distort. So I was able to do custom shaping to the cue. So right here it really hits the cue. And as I go up harder, I can actually move this. And here the cue where it's gonna be. Like when the cue's here, I want to be right there. So that kind of control, I couldn't have made a curve like this without these tools that I now have. Super, super fun. There's another one called The Lost Tomb, which has a really cool percussion groove. Speed it up. Let's see how this is looking for the display. That's pretty good. So check this out. This has this filter fun. And this has resonance. See this resonance? As I bring this around, the feedback on the delay, the omega delay, here how it starts to increase. If I bring this up, so I could control right how much resonance I wanted in the omega delay as it went through the sweep. I couldn't have done like that type of a curve without this real-time control here in the sound. Isn't that cool? And then this is kind of a crazy one because there's a bass, there's an opera singer here we can bring in. You can also take the pitch of the drums. So this kind of power is something that's just really, it's really fun to work with. And the controls that we have are tailored to help make that whole process easier. So, okay, so we've talked about the reverbs, we talked about the MIDI effects. The other things we did, as I've shown throughout, is that you can really easily start with, say, just the piano. So go over here to the keys, to the piano. Let's say we want to use just the Steinway. And even with the factory library, we can now go to pads, and you can just say, I want to add this in as, let's just say current layer, so load it. Then maybe I want to add real strings to this, so I can go down to the strings and say Dream Ensemble. Let's add it as a Unify layer, which will keep the real-time knobs. So if you're doing like a church service or a live show where you want to have like 6 patches or so that you're going back and forth between starting single, and then you have other ones ready, so that when you're ready, you could say add this, and then I want to have strings added to this in a Unify layer. And the CPU power is now an option in the settings. You can turn it on. Same with MIDI layers, whether they are shown or in their hidden state. I have CPU meters on now by default, so I don't even have to go down here and turn them on for the CPU meters. Each time you call up, it now keeps the CPU meters on so you can see what's going on, how you're doing with processing power. If you're playing a lot of notes, I'm hitting my output a little loud. We should do a little, luckily you can hold down Option and just drag them so that, but I'm playing 3 different patches simultaneously. And I'm not, the CPU is going, sure, what do you want to do? So it's a really nice ability to do that. We also have now in standalone, so we had oh cool, came back. Is the audio still in OBS? Yay! So if you're running the standalone version of Unify and you're doing this thing where you're adding things as Unify layers, you can't hear this, I don't have it routed to go, but this is more to show you when you start adding multiple Unify to this, like this, right? I'm not even playing what it is. And you open Windows, it's very easy in certain cases to accidentally go over here and you think you're closing one of these windows and you close the main application window, right? Well, in the past, it would quit Unify immediately, but now we have a safeguard saying, are you sure you want to quit? So it will save you from doing the accidental boom and the program's gone. So we currently have it so that it's, let me ask you guys, we're not deep into safeguards. Are those important to you guys? I thought this one was important to include because it's so easy to accidentally click this and Unify just goes away. Do you like safeguards? Do you like it so it says if you've edited a patch and you call up another patch, should it pop up one of these? To me, they're irritating. I think this one makes sense. But when you quit the program, do you like those kind of warning things that pop up all the time? Because they drive me crazy, which is one of the reasons they drive both of us crazy. So we don't have those types of safeguards. Gregorian chants. I sort of. The chant thing you heard, yeah, it was kind of a Gregorian kind of thing. Before saving several times. Yeah, so that now happens standalone if you close. Even if it's just a window by itself, it will pop up a warning so you don't accidentally close. I'm also thinking because Command W to close a window is right next to Command Q, which right now will still quit Unify automatically. I think Command Q should also be a safeguard, but I'm curious. Yes, safeguards. Yeah, just to prevent close. That's the one that always is a gotcha. And it's happened to me. You're working and you just close, and it's like, oh, the program just died. I lost something. So that's an important safeguard that I want to make sure that we keep. But if you've edited, it's so easy to go like this, and if you change the volume, and if you go like this and it pops up and goes, hey, wait, you changed something. Contact does this continuously. And I'm not a fan of that. It's like, no, I was ready to move on, and I want it to not interrupt my flow, because so much of what we're doing is about being able to play something and then being able to go to something else and not have it go, hey, wait. So other things that we have windscapes, which are really cool for Cloud City. I love wind. These are cool for some of the environmental things that we'll be making. Also in Cloud City coming along with the vocal chops, we have Sunny in the house. And he played his wonderful flutes. Both his phrases. This is a cool one to add like a windscape to this. Say, add this to a new Unify layer, so I can just go right click and say I want it to be down here. And I want it to be transposed up 2 octaves, so that and then we have this to a high pass filter, so I can go over here and, oh no, the high pass filter's over here. So that's pretty fun. Again, all this percussion, and that's what I was gonna show you. So a lot of these, it's being a little bit sluggish. So we might be close to a crash. I'm curious if this is one of those things where, as the behavior gets this way, let's say leather shake or rattle. This is lots of samples. We can go over here and turn on the MIDI box, which will play, right? If you want, you can add a, let's see. Yeah, something weird is acting up. It's like going, I've had this problem with my mouse too lately, so hold on a second. See if it's mouse behavior. Oh, now I've killed my mouse. Come back, mouse. There. Let's add jitterbox. Actually, let's just do this. And yeah, Cloud City is not showing up. I'm going to see something. I have to do a test really quick over here. Unify libraries. There is something kind of funny happening, so go get information. Do-do, applied and closed. Let me see something right quick. So if I call up no plugin and then Unify, let me just see. Nope. Interesting. Okay. One thing I wanted to show still. So let me look at my list because I get a little sidetracked, as you guys know. Another thing that we have worked to fix is that if you are on a library and you rebuild the patch database, it no longer goes back to selecting all libraries. It remembers that, which is cool. Just some nice things to just continue to further advance Unify. It's very fun to see this stuff happening. New features. Ronnie McGee, where's Ronnie at? Is there a link to purchase? So this is, if you wish to get these features, they will be coming within the next week or two max. We're hoping, we don't put an exact target date because it's Shane and myself, and now we're going to involve our beta team this afternoon to get them involved and working with this to get it to be solid. So you've seen it crash a handful of times today. We don't want it to do that to you guys. You can buy version 1.0.12 right now, and it's rock solid, no crashing for the most part, very, very rarely. It's super stable. We're working right now with something where a whole bunch of things under the hood have been modified to add these new abilities. So when you buy Unify right now, it doesn't have this MIDI effect right here. Its MIDI effects are only available at the top layer, which is cool. There's advantages and benefits to that. The nice thing with a MIDI effect up here is it can talk to multiple layers. And in 1.0.12, one of the cool things we added was the polybox MIDI effect. And what that would do is you could go over here. Let's do this. Let's call up the, let's go here to the 1.12 tags. Let's say that we go to one of our MIDI. I got some other stuff to show you guys too. Yay. But let's go over here and call up one of our favorites. Is it in this list? No. Right here, Yuhi Repro 1 is a really nice monophonic synth. Right? If you go to presets, I have a library for Repro 1 and 5, which has and this is a very slow ripple synth. It's got the sequencer happening. Let's turn off the sequencer so that it is just right. Let's say I wanted to play chords with this. In Unify 1.0.12, we added the ability to do that because we have Polybox. And Polybox is a MIDI effect where you can say, I want to be able to have, let's say, 8 voices of polyphony. And what we do is really cool. Polybox will distribute each note you play to a new layer and a new MIDI channel. So you go to your little bullets and you just say, add 7 duplicates of this patch. And by doing that, it makes 7 repro 1s to go with that other one. So I can play Repro 1, which is a monophonic synth, polyphonically, just by doing that. The other things you can do with this is each of these layers could be a different synth. And so there's examples of patches like this where it's playing 8 different layers. And each time you play a note, these are features that are inside Unify right now. So can see each time I play a note, and you can actually go up here and reset it so it starts sequentially. It goes 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then it cycles. And as you're playing one note, it's a sequence pattern. When you start playing multiple notes, each note will advance that note to the next layer. So if I play 5 notes, it played 5 different sounds. So this is Unify 1.0.12. These are the abilities that we can do now, and you know, chances of it crashing are super slim. Even though I'm in 1.31, we're not using the new features. So here's the blue ARP. This is what MIDI effects up at the top. This is the advantage of those, is that you can, one MIDI effect doing the blue ARP can talk to 16 different layers of patches, right? So make sure, if you want to find these, for me the easiest is to go to tags. When I released with the 1.04 update, we added a whole bunch of bass split patches. 1.05, we added all these leads, including like the 64 voice, because it's 8 layers of unison. And I was showing with these, for example, like the pitch bend can now do some cool things where we play a note, and some notes go up, some notes go down. Each layer of Guru Synth, the pitch bend range for each one can be 3 octaves up or down. And you can play a note, and then you can hear the notes in real time. Our editing system is real-time feedback. It's not one of these things where you have to re-trigger the note again. So that's really cool. So these features are in Unify 1.0.12, and it's super cool to play with. It's got the blue ARP, it's got Polybox. The things that we've been showing today are the new things, which is this ability to have a MIDI effect now per layer. But as you saw with the ability to go to here with loading up 16 different patches that one MIDI effect is talking to, you can't do that when you're loading the MIDI effects into single slots. So it's nice to have both options. So that's why both are still totally available to you, because they both have their place for use and so forth, okay? So I just want to clear up, really, I hope that helps. Yeah, it's THX type of stuff. Polybox gives you new capabilities. Each MIDI effect we add, we want to give you new capabilities, new things that you can do. The other thing that's really cool with Polybox is that you could go back to the template. Let's go to the templates for one voice. Serum is super powerful on CPU. In fact, it sounds really great, but the reality is it eats a lot of CPU, right? When you bring up the unison on just one part and then you add the effects and stuff, it gets carried away. Airwave made a really nice library. He's got some really cool BPM stuff going on here. These pads like this. Look at my CPU. For this one patch in Serum, it's using all the power and more, depending on what I play. Well, check this out. Even with Serum, Polybox comes to the rescue. I can turn on Polybox and I can say, give me 4, which is adding 3 more of this patch. And now I can play far more notes. And because each one of these is talking to a separate processor of my computer, I'm no longer asking for all of this note polyphony to be played from one processor. So see how it's sharing this load now between 4 separate processors. So Polybox is cool for making monosynths polyphonic, for doing wave sequency kind of things rhythmically, where it can change patches each time you play a note. But it also helps synthesizers like Omnisphere and Serum and some of the other ones that are CPU heavy. It doesn't work with Diva. Diva has some sort of a multiprocessor thing happening in it, so it doesn't take advantage. If anything, I think it's actually a little bit worse if you try to do this. But with Serum and Omnisphere especially, and other CPU heavy synths that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head, this is a really cool ability, okay? So Polybox does a whole bunch of stuff to expand what you can do with your plugins. That's our whole reason to do this, is to expand what you can do with all the plugins you own. Speaking of plugins you own, you guys want some free plugins. There's a couple new free synths that have been made available. It's not, I mean, I'm not going to say it's bad, because I won't say that. But it's interesting that someone would do this. There's a synth by a company called, what is it? Sample Science, called Analog Waveforms. Let me post the link in the chat. This is a free synthesizer. I don't know how many people are there, but Sample Science is there's 4 different samples from his DSI Dave Smith Instruments Mopho that he has sampled every note for 7 octaves, 10 seconds per note. So, the thing that's a little bummer with this is just the fact that this envelope is really, really crude. It doesn't have any type of curvature shape to the decay. Or to the release, sorry. The decay envelope isn't that great. This low and high, I still don't know exactly what this is doing, except making it really loud and overdriven. It seems to be like an EQ, but it's like, it's working in the opposite of what normally you go this way to get like bright end high EQ. So it's not working. Maybe it's a bug. I don't know. Has a filter for cutoff. And an interesting reverb sound. What I like about this and why I'm pointing it out to you guys is A, it's free. And B, this little LFO here has a really nice so you can get some really cool retro and if you put through this let's say just our water verb is really lovely for stuff like this. And it's nice. The fact that every single note is sampled gives it a unique sound, because with normal sample maps, you know, I'll put like 3 samples in an octave, but there's still places where it's speeding up and slowing down that sample where there's not a sample. But because there's a sample on every note, it keeps it's like the real. It's really nice. If you compare this to other synthesizers, let's say we have a new empty instrument layer. Let's call up a favorite, like maybe Zebra, just to compare. And let's say initialize. There's a quick way to do initialize, I believe. I can't remember how I. This is what happens when you don't work with the synth for a little while. You presets. There's this area here called I have an init, I believe, here. There. In my own library, I have an init. So compare this Let's take it up an octave so that it's a... It's got a little bit of a phasing thing, but it's a nice sound. It doesn't have that perfect calculated vibe to it, which is nice. So just so you know, that is available for free. Another thing that Coxa, yeah, and at the bottom, they have different modways. So another thing that's interesting that came out, let's go to an auxiliary bus, empty auxiliary. Let's say that we reset these to 0 so that we can hear through the auxiliary bus. Coxa pointed this out to me. Our dearly beloved, he's in, I believe, Thailand, and watches the live stream at like 3 or 4 in the morning every week. One of the ESC guru members, and well, no, I don't think he's in ESC, sorry. But just a really cool family member to me because he's around for so long. He shared this, and I wanted to share it with you guys. Hey, brother! This is a really cool repository of this Bricasti reverb, which is great sounding reverb. These are free. Let's see here. Let's close this so you can see. Zoom out a bit. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I'm zoomed in a little bit too much. Sorry. I don't have Skype running, so Shane's sending me text messages. Thank you, Shane. Yeah, so you go here, and it's donationware. If you enjoy these, I would suggest giving him a donation because these are great. They're available as 32-bit, wave quads. I just download the wave files in 24-bit 48 kilohertz. There's also presets for Altiverb, which are there to work with. And check these out. These are really nice. Go to Unify, call it Playing Falter. One thing I wanted to show you also is, wait, let's go like this. So I got my latency back. What happened? Audio. So if you go here to the browser and you want to have it so you can have a user library, because I have a couple things in a user library now. If you go to settings, here's what I do. Let me show you what I did exactly. So you call up your unified folder in settings. Let's see, get this. We have that there, right? This is inside of my users shared Plugin Guru Unify folder. Inside of libraries, I made a folder that I could just call Klangfalter IR libraries for impulse responses. Call it whatever you want, and that way when you find there's tons of free impulse responses on the internet, you can put those into this folder. And what happens is when you go to the browser inside of Klangfalter, Shane did some very nice upgrades to this to make it so that when you click right here, you could have a user library or the standard library that's inside of Unify. And if you go to settings, you can choose where your impulse response user folder is. So that is what I have done, is set that up. So when I go to user, it now shows me these. Here's the sample city, and here's all these different impulse responses for all these different reverb settings of this reverb, and they're great. And what you want to do is load the mono to stereo, where they've taken the two left and right samples and merged them to a stereo image so that you can if we play this with Zebra. Oh, I gotta solo this too. Whoa. Oh, I wasn't showing it. I'm sorry, I was showing Waterverb. Silly me. So here, let's do this. Let's go to just muting this. So here, that really nice reverb was Waterverb. Like, oh, that's really cool. That's Waterverb. That's built into Unify already. But let's bypass Waterverb. So we have Klangfalter. To get this to work, you need to turn down the dry and just have it be 100% for these different reverbs. I should probably call this on a better sound. Let's go to piano, because that's more of a natural what you would like to hear reverb on, I would think. Piano. So there's that. If we compare that, oh, we don't have, never mind. So, or percussion plate. Really nice. So that way you have a place to put your impulse responses so that you can, I don't know, if you search the net, another really cool library is the Echo Thief Impulse Repository Response Library. There's all sorts of really cool things like nature and stairwells. Get something that's kind of bigger. So compare that, which is a real environment, to a large reverb from Bricasti. Okay, so these are a really nice set of free reverbs that are lovely. So Coxa, thank you so much for sharing this. Okay, so those are two. I'll put details in the chat for after the live stream. Any questions? I have been letting just the live stream. Oh, can you limit getting some clipping? Oh, sorry. Oh, that's my fault here. Yeah. I apologize. Clipping should be gone. Sorry. All right. Any questions, you guys? Freeze patch to samples. Ah, interesting. Ever have undo redo? That's a lot of work. Some features require a whole lot of code processing work, and whether I understand an undo redo would be nice. Currently, we do not have an undo redo. Sorry. ETA for the Unify update as soon as possible. Probably within the next week or two. We'll just see how I want some of the stability things to be more stable. There's just too many cases where it just is, as you saw earlier, it can just take off and do its thing, and you don't expect it to do what it does. And so we want to make it a little bit more stable on the MIDI effects and new features we've added. There's some really cool things coming though. The ability to have MIDI files playing per layer, be able to transpose them. This is a case where the MIDI box is transposing by key for the bass part. So I'm using currently DX. I could go over here. I could change this to go to my favorites and say we want to go Zebra 2. And call up some sort of preset from Zebra 2. Let's go to the toxic patches and We could say new layer. Actually, let's do this. Let's duplicate. We'll just play for a minute before the end of the live stream. Say duplicate this layer, and let's have it call up zebra. But instead of this MIDI file, let's go over here to maybe a chord part, which means I need to call up a different sound for zebra. So I'm going to solo this part for a minute, and I'm going to go to zebra and find a chord part. So let's go to the presets, go to the synth stuff that's over here. Now this is using Idea 4. So I could go over here to the MIDI box, and instead of this groove, let's go to Idea Bass for 4 so that it actually is following along and doing the same chord progression. And then let's add another layer. And let's take the kick part and duplicate it. But instead of the kick, let's go over here. In the list from Cloud City, I have all these recycle loops. So let's go to Bigly. And that means we need to go to the MIDI box and choose, go out of here to MIDI files, to there's this recycle drums. And we could find Bigly and... Now it's not playing right quite yet because this is probably transposed or something is not quite set. Let's see what's going on. So it's solo Bigly for a second. Yeah, so C3, oh, transpose is at -9. So let's transpose it to 0. That's closer. Why are you not playing Bigly full mix? And this is Bigly full mix. Of course. Oh boy. What's going on? Is there transpose somewhere else I don't see? Let's see. Did I mess up that MIDI file? It should be playing right. Let's try another groove. Let's say 6 feet under. So let's go over here to 6 feet under. And let's go over here and set it back to gate. So we have a little work to do to get that reliability effect. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's my problem with the MIDI files. So we're getting there, but the ability to build up. It's not supposed to be playing that. It's, I have it on normal. It's playing something fun. Anyway, you get the idea of what you can do. We get it a little bit more. It's not exactly right, but that's, oh my gosh. Okay, so are there questions to you guys? I want to make sure that I have a chance to, a timeline of the latest update. Yeah, coming in May, hopefully in the next couple weeks. We want to get this out as soon as possible. But just we need to we're at the point now where it's mainly just these little random unexpected things. We don't have the repeatable crashes and stuff as working with Unify have been solved. So, yeah. It makes Unify really unique to have that. I think it's awesome to have a veteran patch designer. Yeah. Anyway, we are working very hard. I got to promise you that what this is doing is fun stuff. This is kind of cool. How do you set the CPU meters? Well, right now, the CPU meters is found with a little bullet right here. And each time you call up Unify, you need to toggle it. It's not able to be saved as a preference until 1.1 comes out. And then you hit your settings button, and right here is MIDI layers and CPU meters. If you say CPU meters on by default, then it will have it for ongoing. But that's something coming in 1.1 as a feature. That's not currently there as in 1.0.12. Big E, thank you. The same price as Unify is now. This is a free update. Unify is $79. It's always $79. It's never going on sale. I'm not one of these people that want to... I have bad experiences of spending lots of money on plugins only to find them on one of these VST deal websites for $29 or something like that. And I don't think it's cool that people devalue their work that way. And other companies have never done that. Serum has never been on sale. Spectrasonics products have never been on sale. If they are, it's just a small thing at some of their online dealers and so forth. But the retail price, they've never done the sale thing. I'm doing that as well. This should be a more expensive plugin, but I have it at what I think is a fair price so everybody can get it without it being a $249 plugin. And I'm not going to discount it. Anything below where it's at, ever. That's a commitment that crossed my heart. I hate that. And Shane and I have put over a year of work into this. And so our thing is to do cool free updates. And that keeps bringing lots of happy customers to us. Even in the middle of this thing that we're going through with this pandemic. Got to be home and have something fun to play with. And Unify is perfect because it lets you play with all of your plugins in new ways. So you can start with one patch and just... the funnest thing, if you... cancel. But if you want... The funnest thing to do, for me, I love just starting with one of these patches. Call up, like... There's this really cool... In the new library that's coming out... I'm doing some round robin things. We have a... cool thing where in our sample maps, if samples have the same range, they randomly play. So this is 9 different what I call mega magic. These are the samples with reverbs. So each time I play a note, let's see here, go over here. Let me turn on the keyboard so you can see this. Each time I play this note, right? Well, it's really easy to go say, add a new empty layer. Let's use Omnisphere, which is of course one of our favorites. Go Omnisphere, takes it a minute to load. In fact, here, I had someone ask earlier this week for where this patch was. This is one of my favorite pads. It's on the Mega Magic Violin library. It's called Rivendell. Yep. So let's add Rivendell, which sounds like this. So you can combine your synths in all sorts of really cool ways. Let's say I also want to add another empty layer, and this time I'm going to go find Zebra, which is another favorite. And let's go to one of those pluck patches from the Zebra library, Toxic Zebra that I've created. So we go to the plucks and have, maybe not enemy. Yeah, that's cool. Right? And if I like this, all I have to do is hit save. Save this to the user library. Call this my beautiful Mother's Day song. Because Mother's Day is coming up and we have to write a song for our mothers, right? So we go save as, and it goes to the save window and you just say save. And now you have this lovely song for Mother. And all you have to do is go to the user library, and there it is. Just call it up when you're ready. And to load the patches so fast is one of the really cool things with Unify. You can go from this to something else that's kind of cool, and then go back to your Mother's Day patch and load this, and it's like, boom. Because we're not loading the interfaces, we're not loading any of the GUI stuff that each of those plugins normally has to load before you can even get to the patch. So it makes changing patches and calling up presets of your favorite patches super quick. So not only do you get to make your own combinations of your favorite patches, use them in cool ways. With 1.1 that's coming out, you could take this and add rhythm to it and all sorts of things. So good times. Okay? So any other questions? What do you think about a save song on Patch Browser for when you're actively making changes? I'm glad you guys like this. Yeah, Unify Pro is an idea we would like to make a pro version of Unify where Guru Sampler is blown out. We have a strategy with our audio effects that are inside of Unify. We're going to do some... won't talk about future stuff, but we have a little bit of a roadmap. And in the future, we want to have a more robust, more capable version of Unify that will do even more than this. It will have, when we get to the sample libraries, this is just a small portion of the, if we go to the standard library, there's 12 different libraries that I've created for Omnisphere. I've actually made 40 Omnispheres libraries. 12 of them have samples, and there are actually more libraries with samples, but they weren't my samples, and so I didn't want to get into the using other people's samples and stuff. So these are just libraries I have produced and created. And so if you go to Mega Magic Guitars Part 1, you get a handful of the guitars that are inside that library, but not all of them. So Unify Pro will have all of that content. I'm working on bringing out all of the libraries that I did for Omnisphere as separate as libraries for Unify in the future. Those will all be put into Unify Pro eventually down the road. So, yeah. Yeah, down the road, you can use NetVST app and plugins with Unify already. Yeah. So, anyway, thank you for joining and hanging out on this rainy Saturday here in Portland. I hope you're all doing safe. Let's go out with some fun stuff. Let's go to the Cloud City. We have these really cool environmental texture things that are fun. So let's go to here. Let's start with the night spa. The wind chimes. Let's add by right-clicking, add a new Unify layer. That's the Unify, this groove. And I think that I have to go over here and let's turn down this reverb because I found out this is a lot when I start the groove. So here we go with the groove. Oops. Okay, that's what the beta process is for. To fix it so that when we call these things up, it won't do that. Like right now, it's like, okay, you're allowed to do that now, but not in the future, right? Let's go up here. Let's add another groove to this. See if we crash again. go to the BPM stuff. Let's add another groove so we have a whole other groove going. Into. And all the real-time controls work. Let's go up here and get a cool drum groove going with this. So we could say add, we might crash, but we'll take a trance. So let's say Tantra Dance, add this as a new Unify layer. Turn it right down a little bit. So I've got 3 different Unify playing 3 different grooves. And I want this drum part not to go up there, so it's limited. So, oh, close. So I still have my mellow. Right? So all this is coming. It's fun to develop stuff like this. It's been really fun process. I'm blessed to have a great partner like Shane to work with. We work so well together because he does the code side. I have the ideas how it should work side, and together we make stuff that I'm super excited to share with all of you. So we have a ways to go, as you can see, but it works. So thank you for joining. Does Unify have a stereo out for each layer? No, we don't have a separate output kind of mixer configuration. That's something we can look at in the future. Remember, any feature you ask for, Shane has to write it, create it, implement it, beta test it, bug proof it. It's a huge amount of work. We're not a team of programmers that are each, there's not a person in charge of graphics, there's not a person in charge of this and this and this. It's just Shane. So remember that when you're thinking of all these features, each one of those requires a huge amount of programming work. It's huge, absolutely huge what's going on inside of Unify. So we can only build this, it's a slow process, but if you look at where we started in January, we're actually getting close. January 7th to May 7th will be, our 5-month anniversary. In 5 months, we've gone from a super simplified version of Unify to a version that's now got multiple MIDI file grooves playing all at once, all sorts of stuff happening. So this is over time. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys, you know? So let's do our shout out. Oh, 4 months. January, February, March, April. No, it'd be 5 months because January 7th to May 7th is 5 months. Can we have a key to bring on the dancing girls? That'd be cool. Push a button and an animation pops up. Hey, shout out. Where are you guys out? You know? Yeah. Shout out from PDX. It's good to see you all. Thank you for joining. Amsterdam, right on, Misha. London, UK, Sabazics. Woodstock, Georgia. Hello, Michael. Be safe out there. Portland, Big E, Mark, Mockrock in Scotland. Hey, mate. That's awesome. UK crew, another UK from Dave. So cool. Holland, Grimsby for Andy. Hi, Andy. Awesome, guys. Shout out from Coxa. Coxa, thank you so much for sharing those reverbs. I'll put that into the description for the chat. Tampa, Florida. Yes, we'll have a drink. I'll have my little Diet Pepsi, whatever this is. So cheers to you all. Thank you for going along with us on this process. This is a lifelong process. You got to realize this is an adventure for us. And by joining up and getting Unify, you are now part of the process. of watching it grow, seeing what happens next. We have all sorts of ideas. There's things in the works that are super cool. That we're just starting. This is like we're on the second floor, maybe. This is going to be an ongoing process. So thank you for joining us. Okay, be well, be safe, and we will see you in a week and another live stream on Saturday. Okay, so cheers. I'm going to go find some lovely lunch, and I will see you soon. So thanks again for your support. Much appreciated. Okay.